Welcome to the Dr. Donna podcast, here on the Experience of the Soul podcast channel. Innovative, evidence-based recovery that helps to identify intergenerational trauma, allowing for freedom and embracement of the healing process. Today, episode 114, Life on Life's Terms, Part 1. And now your host, Dr. Donna Bevan-Lee.
And this is Dr. Donna. I am talking to you about life on life's terms. Now, before I talk about life on life's terms today and what that means today, I wanted to let you all know that I will be speaking at an all recovery group that was started in Ireland during the pandemic. And I'm going to be a speaker at this speaker meeting. And it's being participated in by people all over the world. So from all over the world, there'll be over 500 people at this meeting. And so if you would like to attend, you can email me at healingyourfamilylegacy at gmail.com, and I will send you the link. The other thing I wanted to tell you, and I've already said it before, but I just wanted to let you know that my audiobook is out. The Iron Legacy is out on audiobooks. So in case any of you want to know, where to get that, it's on Amazon, it's on Spotify. It might be on a couple of others platforms, and I don't remember them right now. So I come to you today from my dear, lifelong friend for 50 years from her apartment at an assisted living center. And she just died. And since I taped the last time, she had broken her hip, and every person who's aging knows that that is not a good thing to do. You can be just moving along at breakneck speed, doing all the things that you want to do, and if you break your hip, bad things happen. And I've known this all my professional life because I worked in emergency rooms for 4 years, and in those trauma centers, people would actually bring their elderly parents or aunts and uncles, whoever, into the emergency room at night and leave them sitting in the waiting room with no identification, no way of knowing who they were. And they were, so most of the times they had dementia, but they also had other problems. And when I would go into work in the morning, there they would be. And, at first it was really surprising. It's like, who would do this kind of thing? And then I realized that a lot of people do that kind of thing. And at the time, this was many, many years ago, there were no assisted living, didn't really exist then. There was no transitional care between hospital or home and not being able to manage yourself at home, and a nursing home. So you went right from one to the other. And now there are different steps, different levels of living. During that time, I would have to, once people had been medically cleared and they weren't in the hospital, then I was one of the social workers who would actually try and find a place for these people to live. And it was usually in a nursing home, and it wasn't pretty, let me just say. But nowadays, we have these assisted living, independent living, they're graduated at some point. If you live there long enough, you can usually stay there until the day you die. And such was my friend, Pat. And so Pat moved into this assisted living about 6 years ago. She's she's quite a bit older than me. And but we've been friends since I was 25 years old. So that's a long time. And we moved to Seattle together. We were friends all our lives. We've traveled together. We were in mental health, both of us. She was a superintendent of 3 state hospitals, really quite accomplished in her professional life. But she broke her hip, and she's living in the independent part of this facility and became assisted living right away. And when they called me, she was supposed to come home to her independent living and start physical therapy, occupational therapy, all those things to try and see if she could get herself at least going on a walker. And it turned out that she didn't and couldn't, and fell some more when she got back. And then one of the things that happens oftentimes when people break their hip and they're elderly is that they can't get strength back. There is absolute truth to use it or lose it. And a lot of people, and I know this because I'm up there, is that sometimes it's just easier to not exercise. Sometimes it's just easier to, lay in bed or sit in the chair, or, if you have to go down the street to, go to the grocery store or something, it's just easier to drive and then walk. And so she hadn't used it really. I mean, she was walking around in this place. It's really nice, by the way. It's really a beautiful place. In fact, right now I'm looking out of her window of her apartment at this beautiful blooming magnolia tree. And it is just beautiful. Pink flowers blooming. There are crocus coming up. I am in Seattle right now, so it's very green, it's very beautiful, and they get a lot of rain. So anyway, I'm looking out of her window right now. It's really beautiful. And when they called me, like I said, she wasn't able to get going again. And even though she'd walked around inside the facility, because they have a restaurant here, she'd go have dinner with her friends in the dinner time. And so that's pretty much all the walking she did. And so when she broke her hip, she couldn't get it back. There wasn't much to get back. People who are elderly also have a tendency to lose weight because they don't eat much. And that had happened. And so it was just not a good situation. And she ended up with pneumonia, which is what happens to most elderly people when they break their hip, which is, do not fall and break your hip if you are an elderly person. It's not good anyway, let me just say. Not good to break bones, whether you're old or young. But when you're elderly and you break a hip, it's almost, it's going to be iffy whether or not you'll be able to stay alive much longer. And so she, I had been up here in Seattle. I'd driven up and was here for 5 days, and it looked like things were going to go well. So I was driving back to Bend, which is a 6-hour drive. And about halfway back, I got a call that she had fallen again and was in the ICU. So I went home because I needed to get my medications, because old people taking care of old people, there it is. You have to get your own medication. You have to take care of yourself first. So I went back. I kept going to Bend, got my medications, turned around, came back same day. It was a long day on the road. Fortunately, Deb was with me, but it was a long day. And when we got back, she was in ICU. She was, on machines and all those things. And we stayed in the ICU for, I think, 5 or 6 days. Everything kind of blends together. This is about life on life's terms. This is happening in real time. That's why I'm, sharing it with you, because it's like life on life's terms isn't something that you talk about in the past. Sometimes it's right now. So I'm giving it to you right now. And part of it is, my story, but part of it is to also, I have some reminders for people on self-care. So, the story goes that they finally came in and said, you're not going to get well. You have COPD, you have pneumonia, you have heart failure, and you're in kidney failure. So here are your choices. You can stay here and die, or you can go home to your apartment and die. And that's what she chose to do. So being, one of my dearest friends in life, I came back with her to her apartment. Deb and I took care of her. Hospice took care of her. And she died on April Fool's Day, which this woman was, she was a force. I mean, a force. Well, she was one of the first female superintendents of major state hospitals, Arizona State Hospital, Western State Hospital in Washington, and Eastern State Hospital in Washington. And, in order to do that, you have to be a force. And she was a force. So, so here's the deal, is that she was born on the 4th of July and died on April Fool's Day. Now, I said, only she could pull that off. It was kind of an odd thing. And, having to sit in the room, Deb and I, we were in there with her, and day after day, we slept there at night. And that's probably why I sound a little nasally. I got a sinus infection because I'm allergic to animals, and she has a cat. So there you have it. And on April Fool's Day in the afternoon, Deb and I were just talking, and Pat was, she was just kind of in a coma, had been for several days. And it was an interesting experience to, I've talked about being there when my mother died, but this was different because I was actually, I might have been a little closer to her because I actually saw her. We traveled together. We hung out together. We had great conversations together. Yeah, that's never happened to anybody in my family. So, in some ways, I was closer to her. And, in those kinds of ways, substantive, not familial. And when she died, both Deb and I looked at each other and then looked over at her, and it felt like energy had left the room. Now, I don't know what I think about all that. I mean, I've been present when people have died before, and I've seen some interesting and experienced some interesting things, experiences as far as that goes. But we both felt it at the same time. And we both said, did she just die? Because she had been breathing very quietly. And then all of a sudden it was like whoosh, energy left the room, and we both felt it. And sure enough, I waited for a few minutes and took her pulse, and yeah, she had died. And so that was an entire experience of life on life's terms. Now, what are some of the things that, it hasn't been that long, just a few days, but what are some of the things that I have discovered? Well, let me think. You know how I was talking about Swedish death cleaning? Please do that. That is so important because when you don't do it, people who are grieving, who are sad, who are trying to come to terms with somebody that they've loved and cared for all their lives, or a lot of their lives in my case, it's like you're left to clean up the mess. And I'm not trying to sound derogatory about that, but it is a mess. I mean, when you haven't taken care of business and you automatically leave it to the people who love you the most. And, like in the book, Swedish Death Cleaning, it's like, is that really what you want to be doing? I mean, I guess if you're nasty, you want to leave that chore to people that love you, but most people aren't, and they don't want to leave that chore to people that love them. But we got some of that chore, and it was very difficult. We're still doing it, and you don't know my wife, Deb, but I'll tell you what, she is an organization queen. She can walk into a situation and organize it and get it managed in minutes. I've never seen anything like it. And I'm not a disorganized person, but I usually have a stack somewhere where, okay, I'm going to get to this paper, I'll get to that. And it's not a big stack, maybe just a few papers. She has no stacks. And when she runs across one of my stacks, all of a sudden I find out it's organized. I mean, it's that extreme. So when I tell you that this happened on Saturday and it is now Tuesday, and we're still organizing, that's how hard it was. Let me tell you about pets. So she has a lovely pet, cat, named Siddiqui. It means companion in Arabian. She lived in Saudi Arabia when she was young. And cute cat, sweet cat. I am so allergic to cats. And my son's allergic to cats. And, if you're allergic to cats, you know what I mean when I say, okay, I have this raging sinus infection because, well, I was in a room with a cat for days and nights. And, but there was nothing written down, nothing that said where the cat would go. So if you have pets, when people have children, I'm kind of jumping around a little bit, but when people have children, I remember doing this when my son was born. One of the first things I did was, as hard as it was to make a decision about if anything happens to me before he's grown up, I want somebody that I trust, that I love, that I care about, that I know will love him and care about him and do the right things for him. I want that person to raise him. I don't want, it's like my family of origin or somebody sweeping in and all fighting over who's going to, raise him, or not fight over it, but just think, okay, well, let's see if you do this and I'll do that. And the person's going to feel badly, like, oh, now I'm a problem child, right? And so as soon as I could, I arranged to have what I called backup parents for my son. And so that in the event something happened to me, and I was fortunate that it didn't, but that he would go to people who loved him, who understood what, my hopes and dreams for him were the way I wanted him to be raised without controlling. I mean, everybody has their own thing, but that I wanted no slapping, no hitting, no abusing, no ignoring, that it was a full-time job to raise a child, and I wanted them to make a commitment to do it, and they did, and we were good. But people don't do that with their pets. It's like, even though, many people who have pets consider their pets to be part of the family, they don't make arrangements in the event that they die. And so here are these poor animals, and even if I'm allergic to them, I love them. And I really love cats. Too bad I'm allergic, or I would have taken her home with me, but I'm really allergic to cats, so that didn't happen. And, so here was this little kitty, well, grown kitty, but still, who was a rescue kitty to start with. And all of a sudden, it's like her owner had been in the hospital, gone, come home for a few days, was gone again, came home for a few days, laid in bed, didn't even play with her or talk to her because she was like comatose, and then she's gone for good. And the poor cat was like, she wasn't having a freak show or anything, but you could tell she was kind of like, okay, what's going on here? So of all the things we had to do, doing all the things that a person had, call Social Security, call retirement, deal with all kinds of financial stuff and all that, right? And funerals and all that kind of stuff. The hardest thing was finding a home for the cat. And finally, we did. I just got a text from my son who took the cat to its new home, and they love the cat and they're keeping the cat. But really, please, if you have pets, put that into the category of, okay, let's see, if I have children, and like I said, a lot of people think that their animals are their children, make arrangements. We lucked out, but, we were already talking about maybe having to take it back to the rescue, to be rescued again. It's like, that's not good. Okay, so there's that. And then things like, well, what are you going to do with, your computer, your printer, if you have, like I said, people understand about financial stuff. They get it. But everything else, they don't seem to understand that whatever's sitting there has to be dealt with somehow. Because you can't just, oh, well, they're gone now, so I guess I'll leave and go home. No, you have to get rid of everything, whether it's in someone's house, someone's apartment, whatever. You have to find a way to get rid of stuff. And in our society, we tend to have stuff. We have a lot of stuff. And my friend didn't have that much stuff. I mean, I've certainly seen a lot more stuff. And in fairness, when after she broke her hip, Deb and I came up and went through everything to make her life easier. We just went through everything and got rid of a lot of stuff that had just accumulated over 6 years. I mean, she's not a hoarder by any stretch, let me tell you. But, if you live somewhere for 6 years, you accumulate stuff. And so what I would say is, like in the book, Swedish Death Cleaning, go through that stuff. If you haven't used it, if you haven't worn it, if you haven't read it, find a place for it. Because someone's going to have to. And unless you've already done it, it's going to be your loved ones. And it's just a lot of work when you really want to be grieving, when you're really sad, and you're trying to kind of get yourself together so that you can, like, accommodate that reality. Well, you know, I've talked about this, and, you know, I would say stuff, pets, I don't think I have to repeat about children. Most people, you know, if you're not thinking about what would I do if something happened to me and I have children, think about it. That would not be good, and it's not good for pets. And go through your stuff. You know, get that book, Swedish Death Cleaning. It's, like I said, it's funny. It's, you know, to the point. I know that, you know, I've been doing it since I read the book. I've been doing it, and since I've gone through this, I'm going to do it more. When I get back to Bend, which I hope is soon, because I haven't seen my home for over 3 weeks, I'm going to really do it in a big way. And, you know, so if my house has a little echo in it, I don't think that'll be a problem. But I also think that, you know, having gone through this, and I've gone through this before, but now I have a different understanding about it. Having gone through it for a few times, and this time it was mostly, you know, me and Deb together. When my mother died, it was all 5 of us. And by the time she was in assisted living, there wasn't, you know, she didn't have a lot of stuff. I'll tell you, my dad and my mom went on a LDS mission when they were in their, and I'll end with this today, but they went on an LDS mission when they were older and had retired and weren't really working the ranch very much. And it was, my dad was a pack rat, and so was my mother. And they had literally, like, my mother had an entire trailer full of stuff, packed, like a pack rat. And my dad did too. And so while they were gone, my brother went out with his backhoe, and he dug a great big hole there on the ranch and took and dumped all of it in the hole. And I wouldn't suggest doing that with your parents, but you could, if you have parents or you have elderly people in your life or yourself, figure that out, work it out so that the people that you love won't have to deal with it. We'll talk more about this next time.
Thank you for listening to the Dr. Donna podcast here on the Experience of the Soul podcast channel. This channel is made possible because of listeners just like you. If you would like to support the channel with your tax-deductible contribution on an ongoing basis or through a one-time gift, head over to experienceofthesoul.com/support. The Dr. Donna podcast is copyright 2023 Dr. Donna Bevan-Lee, all rights reserved. Our theme music is composed by Dave Croft and used with permission. The Experience of the Soul podcast channel is a production of 818 Studios.
Hey friends, Sean here, your Experience of the Soul producer. I want to take a moment to tell you about something truly exciting. The SoulWorks online community, created by your host, Cynthia Alice Anderson, and available on the Mighty Networks app. If you're looking for a place where you can explore your spiritual path, connect with others, and grow in a meaningful way, then this is for you. SoulWorks is so much more than an online community. It's a safe, inclusive space for spiritual exploration, self-discovery, and personal transformation. Inside the community, you'll find everything from uplifting spiritual studies to soul-centered growth practices meditations, affirmations, and so much more. It's a space where you'll always be supported and never judged. The best part, membership is free. You'll have access to powerful resources, inspiring content, and a supportive group of like-minded people who are all on their own unique spiritual journeys. And if you're ready to dive deeper, there are premium options available to enhance your experience with a live Monday night talk series and extended, deeper meditations. If you're seeking a place to connect, grow, and nurture your soul, we would love to have you join us in the SoulWorks community and see where this journey can take you. Visit my.soulworkscommunity.com today.